I forgot what we're sewing tonight. The Ferris Fanny Pack by Sally Tomato. So if you weren't with us for the first video, my name is Michelle and I am going to be leading the sew along. We are in my amazing sewing room from the 70s in my basement. As you can see, I have lovely wood paneling. You get to look at this when I'm creating. And I work at Fabrications. I've been there for a little bit and this is my first sew along, so please be tolerant of me being awkward and making some mistakes and missing comments. So last week it was really hard for me to like do stuff and see the comments at the same time. So I'm going to try to pay more attention tonight. So please don't hesitate to comment if you have a question or you just want to say something, and hopefully I'll catch it this time. So last week we talked about the different sizes of the pattern, what you need for the pattern to make it. Fabrications does have a couple of kits left if you are looking to make this fanny pack. It has absolutely everything you need, from the thread to the hardware kits to the fabric, the fusible fleece, everything. It does not include the pattern, so you will have to buy that separately. We are currently out of stock of the pattern. We are waiting for our supplier to get more in stock, but it's been popular, so they're out of stock at the moment. As soon as they get it back in stock, we will have it. Same with the hardware kits for the Ferris. Sally Tomato has put together kits for the Ferris. They have everything you need for the hardware. They are currently out of stock at the store, and as soon as they are back in stock, we will get more. If you are looking to make this and you can't wait for the Ferris kit, they do have a level 3 basic hardware kit. If you get the 1-inch size, it has everything you need to make the Ferris. The only thing that's different is it's got D-rings instead of O-rings. And if you are making the small size, that actually helps, because the small size where those D-rings and O-rings need to go, it's a really small space. So this could be handy if you're doing the small size. So there's that. If you do want to get the pattern right away, Sally Tomato does have it for PDF download on their website, so feel free to go there and purchase the pattern. It's small pieces. You can print them out on 8.5 by 11. That's what the pattern pieces are actually printed on in the printed pattern. So I just photocopied mine and cut them out. So yeah. So let's get started for tonight. So tonight we are going to, sorry, I keep adjusting this because my phone keeps falling down. We're going to do our fusible fleece. We're going to apply it to our outer pieces. Get everything ironed nicely for putting our fanny pack together, and then we are going to install some zippers, get some zippers ready for installation, and do the first few steps, and then we'll do the rest next week. So I managed to cut a large and a medium kit out of, a large and a medium size of the fanny pack out of one kit from the store. I managed to get all of the outer fabric cut from it, and I had a teeny bit left over. Now the lining, I wasn't quite as successful because you need a little bit more. So what I had to do was, one part I had to piece it. This is going to be inside, you don't really see it, so I thought, yeah, that's fine. So I managed though to get it all out of one, so that was pretty awesome. So the first thing we need to do is we need to apply our fusible fleece that we've got cut out to our outer fabric. So I'm just going to adjust the camera so that you can see my ironing board. This is not a great angle, but okay. Okay, so I have my pieces. So what I like to do, I'm using a wool mat just because it always lives on my ironing board, and I just like how it presses. So I have my iron on high heat, and it's super dusty and no steam. You can use a little steam. I don't think you need it for this. So I like to press my pieces nice and flat first. The warmth from that also kind of helps the glue start to adhere from the fusible fleece. So make sure that you are putting glue side down. You do not want to put glue side up or it's going to stick to your iron. And then I just press it And so I'm pressing, I'm not ironing. So I'm holding my iron down and holding it there. So I'm putting it down and holding it there and then bringing it up. Ironing is when you're moving your iron around, and you don't want to do that. And there, so our first piece interfaced. Now, sometimes the glue can be a little finicky. So if it's not fully adhere, you can just give it another little press and do these guys. I'm giving it a bit of steam. I think sometimes that helps the glue kind of moisten and adhere a little better. I know some people don't use steam at all when they are doing their interfacing, but I just find it works for me. I find a lot of sewing is, you know, you do what works for you, and it really doesn't matter what other people are doing as long as you are happy with the results. So, luckily there's not too many pieces, so it won't take too long. And it's okay if your interfacing's not exactly perfect on there. Like you can see I have a bit of the exterior fabric here. I mean, it's not a big deal. You have 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, so as long as it's kind of in that seam allowance, you're fine. Okay, last piece. Piece is too big for my wool mat. Okay, there. So now all of our outer pieces are interfaced. Now for our lining, I like to give it a shot of best press. So if you can see this, it's pretty droopy and it's quilting cotton, so it's quite, this is Ruby Star too, so they have a thinner quilting cotton, and it's like, I like to give it a bit of body so that when we're sewing it, it doesn't shift as much. So I like to give it a spritz with best press. I find it just gives it a little bit of body, and it helps it not shift around as much. So I'm just going to spray all of these with the best press. So you can see it does give a bit more body, because these are two, this one's been best pressed, this one hasn't, and you can see it's a little bit more stiffness to that. So I like to do that. So I'm just going to do the rest of them. I like to do the non-printed side, the wrong side, you know, just in case it does leave a tiny bit of residue. Normally it doesn't. Best press is pretty good for that, but you never know. And if you have a darker fabric, you might want to do that. Okay. done. A couple more pieces. Okay, so everything is ironed. Now I'm going to move the camera over to my sewing machine. So that you can see what's going on here. Okay. So let's talk about what you're going to need for tonight. So Wonder clips can be super handy for that. I like Wonder clips because for bag making, I find the layers are often really, really thick. And it's really hard sometimes to get a pin through there, or it distorts it a little bit, makes bumps when it really doesn't need bumps, and it just makes it not as easy to sew. So I like to use Wonder clips. I find they work really nicely. They can be a bit bulky, so you can't get as close to them in your machine as you can with like a normal pin, but I find that they work really well for bag making. I tend to never use Wonder clips for anything else but bag making. So yeah. I really like it. We also need a jeans needle. For most of the kits we sell or we sold at the store, I would recommend a 90-40. Sorry, 90-14. If you have thicker fabric, then I would go with maybe 116. But the oilskin I sewed with a 90-14, and the linen cotton canvas I sewed with a 90-14. So that's what I'm going to use tonight. I have one in my machine that I need to use. Remember to change your needle every 8 hours of sewing. This one hasn't quite seen 8 hours, so I'm going to use it again. You are, of course, going to need your pieces that you have prepared with the fleece and iron nicely. You are going to need zippers. The kits that we sold, we used zipper tape. So I'm going to use that. You can also use finished zippers, closed-end finished zippers, that's fine. As long as they're in the right size for what you need for here, the pattern, that's great. It does indicate in the pattern what you need. And you'll need, for the zipper tape, you'll need your zipper pulls. And I think that's about it tonight. So first step is we need to prepare our zippers if we have zipper tape. So the pattern tells you how long you need your zippers. And if you're using zipper tape, you're going to want to cut them 1 inch longer than it tells you in the pattern. So for the large, it tells us that we need... Sorry, bear with me while so like for the first zipper, you need a 10-inch zipper, so you should cut it at 11 inches. And so I'm just gonna go grab my scissors for my zippers. Okay. We should also talk about seam allowance. So when you are basting in this pattern, they want you to baste at 1/4 inch. And when you are sewing your seams, they want you to sew them at 3/8 of an inch or a centimeter, if that is how you do your seam allowances. We should also talk about stitch length. So when you're basting, you can use a basting stitch length 4.0 or 5.0. When you are piecing your pieces together, you want to do a 2.5 millimeter stitch length. And then if you are top stitching, they recommend a 3.5 millimeter stitch length. So this pattern has quite a bit of top stitching. So if you haven't really done that before, you're going to get comfortable with it because there is quite a bit. So I'm just going to cut my first zipper at 11 inches. Now, to put this zipper pull on, what I like to do is I take so they're all closed and there is no stop at one end, so make sure that you don't pull it all the way off. You can fix it, but it's really annoying if you do that sometimes. So I just split it a little bit at the top. And I have it right side up. Everyone does this a little differently. Some people use a fork. Some people cut a little bit of the tape and stuff. So I found this is what works for me. Sorry, I have to remember how I do this now. I have it so that the zipper pull is facing downwards. So what you would normally consider the top of the zipper, which is zipper pull, which is the, sorry, this is very hard to see, the tapered end. That is what I consider the top. This is what I consider the bottom. So I have it so the top is facing down and it's facing towards you. Your zipper teeth are facing towards you. And I just slip it into the top there on one side. And then I slip the other side in. And there's 2 grooves that you want to get those in. And then I just put it down on my table. And I'm holding, maybe this is hard to see. Here we go. I'm holding the 2 tape sides with my fingers, and I got the pull, and I just start pulling it, and now my zipper pull is on. I don't like to go all the way down to the end moving it because I just kind of want it kind of in the middle, and that zipper is all ready to go. So the first thing we need to do, if you look at your instructions, you need to take your pocket pieces. Let me just grab mine. So this, you need the lining, which will look like this. And you need the exterior, which will look something like this. And you're going to take your zipper. Okay, just one sec here. Normally I put it on the lining, and I have it, wait a sec here. No, I put it face down on the exterior. So face down on the exterior. And this is where I use my Wonder Clips. And you want that edge of your zipper tape to line up with the edge of your pocket piece. And I just kind of clip it like this. So I have about the equal length on either side here. I got about 1/2 inch. I have kind of lined it up with the edge of my pocket piece, and then it's ready to be basted on. I have not even threaded my machine yet, so we need to do that. Perfect. Get my bobbin in there. Okay. Oh, where's my little cap? There it is. Okay, that, and then I need to put this on. So we are going to baste this on first. Now, there are different ways of basting it. You can use Wonder Tape, and you can baste it down that way. Or you can just use like a basting stitch on your machine. You're going to want to use a 1/4 inch away from that for a seam allowance, and it's a good idea now to use a zipper foot. So this is what my zipper foot looks like. Every machine has a slightly different zipper foot. This is mine. So I gotta take this foot off. The one thing about this pattern, you are constantly switching from your zipper foot to your regular foot and back again because of the top stitchings. Usually once you sew your zipper, then you gotta do some top stitching. So you're constantly switching it back and forth. Okay, that's on there. I'm gonna change to a basting length. And I'm just sewing a 1/4 inch seam allowance over here. Now you notice that my zipper pull is, get my needle down, about 1/3 of the way in. And sometimes it's really hard for your zipper foot to get past that pull. So what I do is I just will lift up my foot to give it a bit of room, and then I pull that zipper pull behind to get it out of the way, and then continue on. And then just continue till we reach the end. Perfect. Okay, so now I have it basted on. Now you want to be careful that you don't pull this past here because it will come right off. You can fix it if it does, but it's just easier if you don't have to fix it. So now we are going to take our lining piece and we're going to sandwich that zipper in between the lining piece and the exterior piece. So I like to always have the lining piece on the bottom. I find that when you're feeding it through your machine, if you have it on the top, the lining piece, because it's a little thinner, it's not as stiff as the bottom or the exterior piece, it can bunch a little bit, or you know how you get to the end of the seam and when the top fabric is so much longer than the bottom fabric and so it's just not even. I find if you feed it through your machine with the lining on the bottom, it helps feed it evenly through your machine and it just has a nicer result. So now we are sewing it at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, and you want to get out of a basting stitch and go to your regular stitch length of a 2.5. You still need your zipper foot on, and you're just getting a little closer to those teeth. So let's go. And I just hold it in place. The clips help. And now I'm getting close to my zipper pull, so I'm just going to lift up my foot and move it past. Put that back down. Continue on. Oh. Now because you basted your zipper on, your zipper's not going to shift around at all, which is what you definitely don't want it to do. So I finished that, and now we are going to take it and open it up. You're going to pull the lining down, and you're going to just kind of match up your pocket pieces. The pattern has you press sometimes, but I just find with zippers and stuff, I don't like to do much pressing. I find that's a chance for your zipper teeth to melt if you get it too close to your iron, and I don't want to do that. So I'm just kind of just putting it down like this. So I'm matching. So now we've got our zipper tape, our zipper coming out at the top. We've got this lining piece pulled down and it's matched evenly. So now we need to do some top stitching. So for the large size and the medium size, the pattern recommends a 1/4 inch top stitching. For the small size, it recommends 1/8 of an inch away from the seam top stitching. So, but it's your fanny pack. You can do what kind of top stitching you want. I find that it does look nice with a 1/4 inch on the large, so that's what I'm going to do tonight. So this is when you need to switch back to your regular foot. Put that back on, and you want to switch your stitch length to 3.5 millimeters. Top stitching just looks a little nicer when it is a longer stitch. I'm not sure why that looks better, and it just kind of does. So I guess it's because you can see the thread more. So I'm going to stitch with a 1/4 inch seam allowance away from that folded edge. I'm just using my foot as a guide for that 1/4 inch. I have a little marking on my foot where it is, so I also want to move that zipper pull out of the way. Okay, there is my first top stitched. See, my zipper's open. Doesn't really matter, but yeah, so that's the first part of it. So now we've got our first part of the pocket done, and now we need to put the pocket lining in there. So, you know, it's going to be the back of your pocket to hold everything in there. And there was a rectangular piece that you needed to cut. It will look like this. And it just needs to go face up and behind that zipper. So what I'm doing is I am lining up the top of my zipper tape of my pocket piece with the top of the rectangular piece. And I'm just making sure that it kind of lines up on the sides. Looks like this piece is a little bit bigger than the pocket turned out to be, but that's fine. So you just want to line that up. I'm going to use some clips to hold that into place. Okay. Now we're going to baste that to the pocket lining. So we need to switch back to our zipper foot. We also need to change back to a basting stitch. And we are going to baste that at 1/4 inch away from the edge of that. All the way along. Let me know if you have any questions, any comments. I will try to read them as they pop up on the screen. Just gonna move this zipper pull out of the way. Okay, so that is basted into place. So now what it wants you to do too is the pattern wants you to stitch from here all the way around your pocket piece and up. Basically what you're doing is you are basting the pocket to the pocket lining so that it lines up nicely. So if you want to pin or clip that into place, you can do so now. So just at 1/4 inch. Also, what is good is when you're going to start here at the top and you're going to go all the way down and around and come back up to the top here. It makes a zipper stop for your zippers. So after that, you can't pull your zipper off. So that is good. Now for this, you need to switch back to your regular foot. Like I said, there's a lot of switching for this one. And get it ready. Okay. So still in a basting stitch, just about 1/4 inch away from the edge. Pivot at the corner. And I always, like I said, I always like to have the exterior fabric facing up. I find it shifts less than the lining does. There we go. Okay, so now we have that basted. So now what it wants you to do, the pattern, is to go and trim off this excess pocket stuff. Basically, they just have you cut a rectangle and then do the, sew this on so that if like things shift too much when you're sewing your zippers on, that it won't, because if it shifts a lot, it won't match up. So this is just ensuring that your pocket's going to match up nicely. I'm just going to grab my rotary cutter. If I can find it. Oh, there it is. So I have a self-healing mat here under my sewing machine. I like it because sometimes I find, I need to cut something really quickly while I'm at my machine. So I luckily had an extra one and I can do that. So I'm just cutting this off. You're just following your exterior piece. Now, do not cut your zipper with your rotary cutter. It is a good idea to have just a pair of craft scissors in your sewing room so that you can cut your zippers. Because otherwise it's like plastic pieces. They're going to dull your scissors or your rotary cutter. So don't use your good stuff on that. Okay. Okay, so now we have it like this. We almost have a completed pocket. We are going to now take this piece and we are going to align it to the top of our pocket. And we're going to stitch that down with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, and we are going to use a 2.5 inch seam length, or sorry, stitch length. And so it's always a good idea just to give it a few little clips or pins. Sometimes I'm bad and I don't actually clip it or pin it. I'm a bit of a slapdash sewist, so I tend to do that. Don't follow my... Don't follow me to do that because... Oh, and it's good to have your zipper foot on because there is a zipper in there. So switch back to your zipper foot. And you're going to do 3/8 of a seam allowance, 3/8 of an inch seam allowance on this. Oh, I'm going to switch my stitch back. And here we go. Now remember, you got a pull coming up, so in a second I'm just going to pull that out of the way. I don't want that in the way. Put that back down. Okay, so you notice we didn't have a lining piece for this because there's going to be another part, I forget which part, that's going to create like a lining for this part. So it's basically on the back, you've just got your pocket lining and you've got this piece. You're going to want to finger press that up so it looks like this. And so your seam allowance is facing up. And you're going to take it to your machine and you are going to top stitch it down. So again, you're going to do 1/4 of an inch if you're doing a large, and you're going to do a 1/8 of an inch if you're doing the small. You're going to need to switch to your regular foot. And here we go. And adjust your stitch length as well. One tool that could be handy for pressing this, if you don't want to use your iron, which I don't like to do, is one of those roller presses that quilters often use. That can be handy for this. Okay. There. Now we have our pocket made. So if you open this up and stick your hand in there, you've got a pocket. Look at that. Pocket. So that's the first step for this pattern. Okay. Oh, and one thing you should think about when you are putting your zipper in is what side do you want the pull on? So my pull ended up over here because I didn't really think about it first. So it doesn't so much matter right now. It will matter when you put your second zipper on because you're going to want it to go in the same direction. So you also might want to think about how you wear the bag, like what works best for when you're opening it. I've worn it on both sides and I can't remember what way the zipper went, but I didn't find it awkward or anything. So I think you'd be fine whichever direction you put it, but you might want to think about that when you are putting your zippers on. Okay, so we did that, we top stitched. Now we're going to attach the sides to give this bag some shape. These are the pieces that you're going to be attaching. Now, one thing about this pattern that I am not 100% happy with is that some of the pattern pieces do not line up great. So this is one of the pieces that doesn't line up great. So I find that kind of annoying that the pattern pieces are not drafted great for this part. The reason we're still doing the sew along is that your outcome with this pattern, everything looks great. Doesn't matter how they didn't really match up. Everything kind of still works. And your final product looks really good. So I'm still happy with everything. I just think, you know, they could do a little bit more work and fix these pieces. But you'll notice if you ever go to the Sally Tomato Facebook group, they complain about that a lot. So we're going to take one of these and we are going to attach it to one side of our pocket. Now you're going to want to line up this piece up here. This has to line up. Doesn't matter so much down here because things are going to fold and look funny down here, but this has to line up. So you want that to line up at the side or at the top, and you're going to line it up along the side here. And I just clip it into place, and I'm going to do the other one at the same time. You're going to want to move your zipper pull out of the way if it's there. Get a couple more clips. See, this is where clips are handy because you're starting to get fairly bulky, and pins just don't quite do the same thing. So, okay, so now I have the two sides pinned or clipped in place, and I'm going to take it to the machine with my regular foot, and I'm going to sew a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance down both sides of those. So you're sewing, ooh, dropping things. You're sewing from the top to the bottom on that side. So I'm going to take it to my machine. You can sew right over that zipper for the zipper tape because it is nylon and it is fine to sew over. If you were using a metal zipper, you might want to be very careful there because you don't want to come down on a metal piece. And if you're using a regular closed end zipper, as long as it's nylon, you're good to sew over it. Okay. So I've got those two sewn. So now what we're going to do is we're going to open them up. And you're going to press the seam allowance to the sides, both sides, and then you're going to top stitch them down. So I'm going to my machine and I'm adjusting my stitch length to 3.5, and I've just kind of finger pressed it open. Come on. And I'm top stitching 1/4 of an inch away from that fold seam. And I'm going to do that on both sides. Okay, so now I have it top stitched down. So you can see there's some top stitching there. Now, this one lined up quite nicely here because this is where I've had trouble in the past. It's actually looking not too bad. The small size and the medium size did not line up as nicely, but this one's looking not too bad. So there is that. So that's basically the front part completed. And I think we're gonna stop there. We're almost 38 minutes in. So the next steps, what we're going to do is we are going to put the upper zipper together. We're going to attach that to this piece, add some lining pieces in, add a back piece in, and then we are going to flip it right side out. We're going to birth a bag. So if you've never done that, it's pretty fun. And then we're going to do our straps. So let's end it there. So if you have any comments, don't hesitate to comment on this video. We do check the comments regularly. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions, any insights or anything. I hope you've enjoyed it tonight. Like I said, it's my first sew along, so I'm learning as I go. And yeah, so I will see everyone next week. That's Tuesday again at 8 o'clock. I'm pretty sure this should be our last week next week. I think we can get it completed in time. So let's end it there, and we will see everyone next week. Bye.